Sean and I met a few years ago while I was living in California and he was living in Maine. It was the last day of his trip, and we were at an all-day event with a group of mutual friends. Sean flirted pretty heavily.
Yeah, and you ignored me at first.
Well, I didn't really ignore you. I just kind of thought to myself, I really like this guy, but he lives in Maine. I was just about to move to Seattle, and I just kind of figured it wouldn't turn into anything.
Well, luckily for me it did.
Luckily for both of us. We just had to figure out how to make it work. We were long distance for a while. California, Maine.
And then Seattle and Boston. You backpacked Asia for 2 months, while I sailed the Atlantic for 6 months. But through all the thousands of miles, we grew closer and closer together with every phone conversation.
Those were great phone conversations.
Debbie grew up in California after her parents immigrated from Taiwan. One of the things I love about Debbie is her ability to be conservative, and I mean that in the most loving sense. She reuses Ziploc baggies and paper towels. She squeezes out every last ounce of toothpaste and then cuts open the tube to get out the rest. When she cooks, she doesn't waste a thing. She'll make homemade pasta sauce and then use the leftover basil to make basil lemonade. And when I met her parents, I realized that she is her mom.
Well, growing up, my parents never said you must be green or use buzzwords like sustainable or eco-conscious. It just wasn't about saving the earth, and it wasn't even about being frugal. It was a simple message my mom ingrained in me. Don't waste. How simple is that? Don't waste. And so I don't. Sean grew up in Maine where the woods and water were his backyard, so 90% of his life was spent outdoors.
Now we live in New York City, which is pretty different from Maine.
But Sean created ways to bring Maine to him. Before we were engaged, he lived on a sailboat across the Hudson River. He took a ferry to work and then biked from there.
One advantage to living in New York is that you don't need a car. You can really reduce your carbon footprint with public transportation.
And then one day he decided to use a kayak instead. I still meet people who say, "Your fiancé is that kayak guy?"
Most people haven't poured their first cup of coffee when Sean Patch is already suited up for his morning commute by kayak.
When I first started doing it, they really would come out of the decks and kind of wave their arms and just be like, "What are you doing out here?"
He's saving money. When the Weehawken ferry upped its prices, Patch ran the numbers. He's a math teacher after all. Supplying his own paddle power saves $15.50 a day. That's $1,700 since July, and by the end of the school year, the savings will be more than $4,000. Patch says he hopes to keep paddling to work even in the dead of winter. And if this is what you call home, maybe kayaking to work isn't such a stretch.
Who knows how long I've loved you?
We are excited to share our commitments to the earth and to each other in our daily living. Just like one loving moment does not make an entire relationship, recycling one bottle doesn't save the earth. It takes a mutual respect, a lifetime of hard work, and an open mind to continually adapt to make a marriage and the planet sustainable. We are confident in saying that we are green, not because it's in fashion, but because this is who we are. We will continue to embrace these values our families have taught us, and we look forward to passing them on to our children.